Hi, my name is Katie May, and this is the Baby May podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about what it's like for me to be newly considered urban Inuk / urban indigenous. If you're unfamiliar with that term, what it means is that you are an indigenous person that is not living on your original territory, like where you're from or where your family's from or where your indigenous group is from. For myself, I guess I am urban indigenous because I am from Nunavut and a majority of my family is also from there. So me moving outside of the territory, I am now considered urban indigenous, specifically urban Inuk. That's something that's very new, and I have a lot of new and complex feelings around it. As much as I am happy to make the move, moving out of Nunavut, which will always be my home, I'm very happy and proud to be from Nunavut, and I definitely would love to be visiting there. And I think ideally when I'm elderly, I would want to live there again. But for now, in the time being, I enjoy living down south. And for those who live down south, which is the provinces, you might laugh and be like, ha 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 ha, down south. But you are down south. Because all of the northern territories are up north. Yeah, I'm just gonna call all of, when I'm referring to down south, I'm basically talking about any and all provinces and cities. Because I consider being up in the territories to be very otherworldly. When you're traveling to Nunavut, for myself, it's almost kind of like traveling internationally. The environment, the air, the people, the culture, even though it is very much a part of Canada, the country, I just feel like the north, all of the northern territories just kind of run differently than the provinces do in the south. It's really hard for me to try describe or highlight the differences. The environment and the weather is definitely a key difference. It's very freaking cold because it's the north. If you get up north enough, you get to the Arctic Circle. You experience basically 24-hour daylight in the summer and 24-hour darkness in the winter. If you're not in the Arctic Circle, I don't know if you necessarily experience something like that. I don't know. In terms of government, it runs differently because populations in the territories are just not as high. So when it comes to politics, I think there tends to be a lot more community involvement. There's just a lot of key differences. It is definitely a really big move to move out of the territories into the southern provinces. I feel like there's definitely been turbulence at times for myself, like missing home, cultural shock, overstimulation of all the lights, all the concrete, all the buildings, all the people, all the vehicles, all the trees. There's just so much of everything, and there's options for everything. And it's hard for me to make up my mind a lot of the times. It's definitely new. I am happy, and it is definitely a big learning process. And the more I am learning and going through it, the more I find myself to be familiar and comfortable, and I feel secure in my choice of moving out of the territory. There's a bunch of reasons why I decided to move out, but I think a key reason is just because I can. I know that's kind of that may be a silly reason, but there's a lot of people that I know in Nunavut and the smaller communities that have never left that community or have never left Nunavut. I consider myself to be someone who's traveled quite a bit, not a whole lot. I have definitely left Canada. Yeah, I visited all the provinces and territories by now, which is something that I'm so grateful for. I love it. I love traveling Canada. I definitely feel like there are also key differences between the territories themselves, but overall, I'd say it's pretty appropriate to say as a collective, the three territories are totally different from the provinces. I'm very proud to be from Nunavut. I think making the move to Manitoba is something that is not an easy thing to do. I'm very fortunate to have work. I'm very fortunate to have a support system. I have security here, and I'm able to provide that for myself. I'm able to also rely on people to help me when I need it, even sometimes when I want it. I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning more to ask for help and get to know people in Winnipeg, like making friends. It's making me realize that, like, when it comes to living in a place that is so small, perhaps there's a bit of an advantage of making friends because usually the people who are in your small town are just usually going to stay in your small town until they're adults. And then there are people who just stay in town, and that's totally okay. I think there's a bit of an advantage to that because, well, they're there and you can't really go anywhere else because in Nunavut, you can't travel by a road between communities or into the territory. That's kind of basically exclusively a fly-in territory unless you are able to go by boat or skidoo in the winter. But like that requires a whole experienced group of people who will be able to safely make that trip in between communities. And that's very hard. When I was younger, much younger, like I think I was 3 or 4, I was definitely preschool age. With my family, my mom's side of the family, we boated from Iqaluit to Rankin to Nalia. And if you look at a map of Nunavut, you can see all of these islands across the territory. So we got to go on many different islands of Nunavut. I don't fully remember it because I was young, but I definitely remember the feeling of being on a boat. I remember being in a tent. I remember being close with my family. And it was like, from what I kind of remember, it was great. I liked it. I saw polar bears. Being able to be on the sea, the water, and the land of like Nunavut is like an experience that is like no other for me. I feel very connected. I feel very at peace. I can't think of other places. The other territories are also very different. Like, I can't think of other places that are exactly like it. It always holds a very special place in my heart. Something that I've been thinking about a lot when it comes to like moving down south was like my other family members who moved down south, like my Anaanatsiaq. And for this episode, I interviewed my Anaanatsiaq. And for those who don't speak Inuktitut, Anaanatsiaq means grandmother. She is my grandmother on my dad's side. I grew up with her. She's always lived in Montreal throughout my life. I went to go see her in her home, and I was very happy to be able to interview her. My relationship with her as I become an adult, and then on top of that, moving down south has changed in the sense that like I feel like as I've matured, she's been able to open up to me about things that like she experienced as a young adult and throughout her adult life. Because now I'm able to understand those things. It's a very wonderful thing to be able to open up with her and to be able to get to know her because she's a wonderful Anaanatsiaq. I love her. And to be able to get to know her as a person is just, it's very interesting. I find her to be a very, very special lady, and she is very strong and very tough as a person. And I just feel like there's so much I can learn from her. And she's just overall like a joyful person. She can be so tough and yet so happy. It's a quality that I want to learn from her. Up next is this interview with her. I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm so happy to share it. I hope you enjoy it. Here it is.
Okay, am I ready?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Gina Kalnick, and I'm from Nunavut, but actually from Kikatajoa, grew up in Iqaluit.
When did you move down south?
I moved to down south, I was 18 years old
Why did you move?
because I had this white man boyfriend then, which is your grandfather. I met him in Iqaluit, so he had to go to school to college or university, so I had to follow him. So that's when I left home. I was 18 years old to south.
Where did you move to?
We moved to Toronto, Ontario.
Did you feel like a culture shock?
Yes, very first thing. That's my culture shock. Yes, very much.
What do you remember, like being shocking, like weird or new?
Well, it felt weird because I never seen thousands of millions of white people walking everywhere in the city and all these big building everywhere we walk. I see big building and big trees. I never seen no trees in my life. So, and all these cars and all these many people. So that was like a very cultural shock for me. I feel very small.
Did you feel homesick?
Yeah, after a few days maybe, I remember I wanted to go home so bad. I didn't expect to see what I see in South.
What did you see?
All different things, like I say, high big buildings, cars, many thousands of people, and like metro, looks like there's people everywhere you go, like that. It was horrible.
Do you remember your first time like on a highway?
Driving, I mean being on a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was scared and I said, "Whoa, driving very fast." That was my feeling. Being in the first time in the highway to drive very fast. Oh, you can't slow down. Then the driver said, "No, we have to drive like that." Okay.
Where did
was,
you? Oh, sorry.
okay.
Where did you drive to?
We drove to where we were living to go to downtown to go shopping. I remember that it was exciting. Oh, shopping! But it was very different shopping. Too many things to see. Didn't know. Oh my!
When was your first train ride or your first bus ride?
Oh, my ex-boyfriend, he goes to me one day, "Oh, we're going to go by bus to go visit my friend." I didn't know there's a bus, so, and we were lining up. There were so many people lining up, and I started to wonder, oh my goodness, all these people, they are going to go inside to that? Everybody had to line up. You cannot just go in like that either, to bump or whatever, because line up was so, so they line up like that. So it was weird like that to have to be lined up.
When did you get used to taking the bus and the metro?
I don't think I was never allowed to go by bus or by metro when I remember start living in Toronto. I couldn't. I was too scared.
What about in Montreal?
In Montreal, yeah, I can.
When did you get used to it in Montreal?
Maybe it took me maybe a little bit, a month, 2 months, 3 months to get to know how to travel. Yeah, following that map, metro map.
Did you know or meet other Inuit while living down south, like in Toronto, or when you moved to Montreal?
Well, in Toronto, I know this lady. She was from Iqaluit. I met her, but now she's living in Quebec City. But her and her brother, they live in Toronto. They're artists. I don't know where I ever met her. I can't remember. But she was from Iqaluit. So it was so nice to meet somebody. Oh, I could speak Inuktitut because everything what I hear was just English talking, you know. Like I was missing talking to my language, Inuktitut.
When did you move to Montreal?
I moved to Montreal back in 1989.
Why did you move here?
I moved here, I escorted my mother to come to the hospital, and then I never went back.
You liked it here?
Yeah, when I found a job, yes.
Was your first job here an interpreter?
Yes, that was my first job, yeah.
So that's been your job the whole time you lived in Montreal?
To this today, yes.
How do you feel?
I'm ready to retire. I feel, okay, work. I think I'm reaching to there where it's time, that's it.
But you feel good about living in Montreal and working as an interpreter?
Yes, the job I like, yes, because I wanted to become a nurse. So that's my field, I guess.
Did you know other Inuit when you moved to Montreal?
I only met other Inuit through my job. I really didn't know who lived here until I applied to look for a job for Inuit.
When did Inuit organizations come to Montreal?
They were already here when I moved here, so that's where I applied. So I think they've been around here for a long time.
Do you like them?
Yeah, they're okay. But these offices here more likely people from Nunavut, like Makivik, Kativik, Avatak, and Ivirtivik. These are all different places for Inuit offices. People who works here there's a lot of Inuit who lives here.
Is there sometimes difficulty with translation because people are from, like you're from Nunavut and people who are patients, like they're from Nunavut or other regions?
In the beginning, yes, because in my life I never hear no Nunavut dialect before because I'm from Nunavut. So first time when I came here and worked for them, I never really hear their language, only by radio maybe, but never met them. So it was difficult, it was very different. But in medical terminology, everything was all the same, no matter what, in Inuktitut. So the dialect makes difference.
Do you know the different dialects more now?
Yes, many dialect people from Angava Bay and Hudson Bay.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is it like living in Montreal for so long?
Well, my youngest child was born here, so mainly here I was born. I'm here, and became a single mother, so I mostly live here for his school.
What was it like having your first baby in Toronto?
It was scary. It was very scary because I remember having, like, I never been in a big hospital, you know. It was big hospital. And then I had no clue. I remember, oh, I had a baby. Where's my baby? Like, I'm kind of a panicking a little bit because I had no clue how, looking at the place, it looked so big, you know. How do they know of my baby, Ima?
When you lived in Toronto and my grandpa was in school, what did you do during the day?
Me, before my first child was, well, in the beginning, when we lived in Toronto, I worked in the bank. That I worked for the bank.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I worked for the World Bank of Canada because back then when we moved away from Iqaluit, I was already working for the first bank in Iqaluit. So with a reference letter, I got the job. So I worked in a big city.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then what about after you had Sasa?
Oh, after a while, because your grandpa was finished his school, so we had to move back to Iqaluit. That's when we went back. Yeah. And then we stayed there maybe a couple years or something. And then he had to go back to school. So we moved to Edmonton, Alberta.
I didn't know you lived in Edmonton.
Yes,
When did you move there?
we moved there, so back in oh my God, how long ago is that? So I've been here since 89. So it must been like 83 or 80, I'm not sure there. And we lived there for 3 years. So he kept going to school for 3 years, 3 years. So it was 3 years that I live in Edmonton, Alberta.
With 2 babies?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was a little scary being a mother and taking care of my older kids. Like, not nobody is with me. My family is not with me, so it was weird and scary.
Did you move from Edmonton to Montreal?
No. Then after we lived in Edmonton, then we went back to Iqaluit, so we kept going back and forth a bit.
Back then it was Frobisher Bay.
Yeah. Yes.
What was it like? So you were in Montreal when Nunavut happened, like when it was made?
Yes.
What was it like seeing Nunavut be made?
I think it was exciting because, and I said, oh, I'm from Nunavut, I'm Inuit. I'm always going to be from there no matter what.
Did you call it Nunavut before that?
No, it was Northwest Territories, I remember. Yeah, it was Northwest Territories. I really like that Northwest Territories. It looks long, it was long, yeah, but the government, I guess they could change, so they changed to Nunavut.
What was it like getting around the city without a cell phone? Around a bunch of cities
Without what?
without a cell phone?
I remember not having a phone. Never. I remember it didn't bother me, or I didn't think about telephone. then. But all I ever remember is that if I'm out, then if I want to call home, I have to use the payphone and put money.
Did you have a pager?
When I was working, yeah, when I started working here in Montreal, I used a pager.
Did you like it?
It was annoying. Beep, 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 beep. And many times it will go because somebody need us, you know. It was little annoying. Beep, 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 beep. Pager.
Is there any stories you want to share about, like, funny or interesting things about you didn't think about when you moved down here or throughout the years?
Well, I never thought I would live in South, but I remember when I started living in Toronto, it was summer. When I first experienced summer, I thought I was gonna die from the heat. So that was shocking for me. I wanted to go home so bad. So I would call home saying, Ati, put money together and let me fly back home. I'm gonna die from the heat. That, I really meant it that time. It was so little scary, little bit about the heat. So to this today, I don't like heat. But I like my job. It keeps me busy to help my Inukatiks because I'm Inuk. I'm always going to be Inuk from Nunavut.
What are some of the things that are still hard to get used to?
To travel, like if I have to go work, it's like an hour to go work. So when I think back then, back home, I would get to work like 10, 15 minutes. So it's always pain in the ass to know that I'll be at work in 1 hour to travel. That part I hate because I don't know how to drive. If I know how to drive, I will have my car. But I don't know how to drive. So for that part, that's annoying part still to this today for me when I travel to go work. And I still cannot get used to thousands of people. I feel like I'm going to get squashed in. No, I will never. That part's still scary for me. I remember being scared, you know, and when I started living in Toronto, scary.
What's the thing you like most about living down south?
The price are cheaper. The food are fresher. Everything is fresh. I like the shops here. They have many things always in specials. That's what I like about, I guess.
More things. Is there anything you feel like Inuit should know or expect when it comes to moving down south?
I guess today, the generation today is very different back then. So maybe today people maybe not scared like I was, like for younger people. Maybe, that's what I think. Maybe like you, it's not scary for you, is it?
I'm scared.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But maybe people who are very open, maybe they're not scared, but I know it's scary. Like I was scared. I don't like to go out nighttime here, never. Never know what will happen. It's not the fact not to think like that, but I don't like to go out at nighttime.
You lived down south for a while, and you say it's scary, but you still do it.
Yes, I still do it because I know I have to do it. Especially if I have to go work. That's important for me to go work when I'm fine. That helps me, keeps me busy, you know. So I'm just being patient. I'm reaching to my retirement.
Well, thank you, Anaanatsiaq, for letting me interview you.
Ilali, may angutakoti, may piakoti, may nali.
Love you.
Love you. Hey.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to the interview with my Anaanatsiaq and for listening to her story and what my experience has been like moving down south and like my thoughts and feelings. I wanted to talk about Nunavut in the territories and just how different it is to kind of like, I hope, explain a bit of like the cultural shock and just how like vastly different it is and how new everything could feel when it comes to like being in a big city. It made me feel more comfortable or more at ease listening to like some of the similarities with my Anaanatsiaq and I when it comes to how it feels to be in a big city and how it can be overwhelming. Yeah, like I'm happy that I did this interview. I hope you all have enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.